start the recording. Alright, so... What?
Never mind, go.
No, I do have an overlay for your show, just not like a mini one. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chronicles of KasPra, Episode 3, which was postponed from last week due to my illness. I am still slightly ill, but as you can probably hear, feeling quite a bit better than last week. So, this episode doesn't really have a theme. KasPra's computer is still broken, so we don't
It's not.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, it's fixed.
Oh.
Didn't I tell you?
It's fixed. But you don't have, you said you weren't able to ladder or something. So...
It's because I'm really busy with the university stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the computer is fixed, but he's just really busy. So not able to ladder, but instead... we have replays from a friend of KasPra's, who is, I believe, C/C+ level. So we will be analyzing those instead. So let's get on IC Cup.
I'm just curious, who is this person? KasPra, who is your friend?
Well, I don't know how to pronounce his name in English, but it's Gourmand.
He posts on the IC Cup forums quite a bit.
Yeah, I think he does.
He's got like a really creepy profile picture.
Yeah. I think his other username is Super Guru or something like that.
Alright, so are there like any particularly good replays out of the pack you sent me, or should we just should I just pick a random one?
Well, they're all pretty good. I watched them all. I think they're all decent. He just chose the more back and forth games, I think, and some of them should be against D+ guys. So, well, I don't know. Still good though.
Alright, so I guess I'll just go with the first one for now, a TVZ. Since we do have our resident TVZ specialist.
You should. Oh, never mind. Let's go with that. Yeah.
All right, go say one.
Yep, this is a matchup I don't suck at.
Indeed.
As opposed to my ZVP, which is pretty god-awful.
As we aptly demonstrated on KasPra episode 2.5, which I have yet to upload, but I will do that. I will upload that at the same time as I upload this one, so...
Don't worry about it.
Oh no, I have to get that out there. Ustreamer 14250, yes! Well, no, not D+ games. These are like C-level games, but yes, we're not broadcasting Super Gosu games. We're just gonna take a look at, intermediate to low-level games, because this, indeed, is a show for the newbies. Show for the newbies. We heart you newbies. You keep, Brood War going. You keep it going. Alright, so it looks like we have a Terran, sorry, not Protoss, a Terran player up Rage. Oh, I guess he's from Rage Clan. In the top left, playing against our hero of the day, Super Guru. Who will be the Zerg player in the bottom left. The map is Fighting Spirit, the most standard. Oh, looks like I got a little bit of chat from the players. For a second I thought people were actually talking to me, but no, this is just from the replay. So yeah, Fighting Spirit. Pretty much if you start laddering on IC Cup, chances are you're gonna see a lot of this map. Alright, I assume you were laughing about the chat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually still in Rage, okay.
Alright, cool. So, Noam, would you like to give us a little overview of how this matchup usually goes on Fighting Spirit?
Well, usually how every single pro game goes, except with mech, is you go 3-hatch mida and you take 3rd gas, then you go straight for Hive. Terran does his fancy mid-game push, which if Terran is good, it will get right to your front door, then you consume finishes and you hold it off and you enter the late game.
Indeed, and it looks like the Zerg will be going for the very standard 12 hatch This should be your go-to build if you are a Zerg player. It's a very economic build, of course, and it still can hold off cheeses such as the BBS, which stands for Barracks Supply Depot, and of course the Proxy 2 Gates of the Protoss. It can indeed defend both of those.
If you know what you're doing, like you need to
If
cancel
you know what you're
that.
doing, indeed.
And no one. I have a question from the viewers. When should you get a Hydralisten and a Queen's Nest if you go Muta, I guess?
Alright, what I kind of don't do the typical thing. I only get 9 Mutalisks, and I immediately throw down a Hydroden. But that's because I'm very comfortable holding off like 20 Medic Marine with only 9 Muta. Usually what happens is you go 11 Mutas, which delays the Hydroden a little bit. So your Lurkers are a little bit delayed, but you have a stronger unit composition. Yeah. Then what happens is you get Lurkers immediately, and you send Hydras to the ramp preemptively. And I get Queen's Nest at 50% Lurker. But it's really, you have to find something that works for you. Because what I was doing for a while was I was copying what Rhett did, and he went 11 Mutas, then he got the Den and the Evo Chamber at the same time. And the problem I was experiencing was I was not getting enough Lurkers out that I could properly delay his mid-game push. Like, it'd be 5 Lurkers or something, you just roll me over, so find something that works for you.
Yep. But do note that these are, of course, little adjustments. You know, he's not doing something crazy like Den at the same time as Spire. Your overall plan should be 3-hatch Muta to harass the Terran, basically keep him in his base while you expand and take a third gas base. And while you're doing that, you get your Lurker tech up in order to defend those bases, because eventually your Mutas will not be able to hold off the Terran, and he'll push towards your base, so you need the Lurkers to defend yourself until you get Hive tech. So that's your overall plan, and then the little things, the exact timings, as no one said, are kind of up to you.
Unfortunately, because of Flash, that's kind of changed a little bit. Terrans aren't sitting in their base when Mutas come. What they're doing is they're rushing for a fast +1 weapons, so they can move out faster, and they get 4 barracks, so they can like have an army. And what that forces Zerg to do is to defend his natural and his third base with the Mutas, instead of doing Harass like you'd prefer to. Which is fine, because the trade-off that happens is Terran's factory gets delayed quite a bit, so the mid-game push that comes out is not quite as scary, because it's delayed.
I see. Alright, so you said you wanted me to pause at this point in the game. What were you going to talk
A
about?
few things I wanted to point out from Zerg. First off is he did not do the larva trick, which really, it's not a huge deal, but it's something that adds up real quick. And for those of you that don't know what the larva trick is, when your minerals are on the left side, you group your larva with the Overlord, you hit stop, and the larva move to the left side of the hatchery, and that just gets the drones to the minerals a little bit faster.
Alright, a little pro tip. So on Fighting Spirit, that would only apply if you were on the left position, either top left or bottom left. You could do that little trick to just get a slight edge. But of course, it does adds up. Similar to how splitting your workers will give you just a couple extra minerals, but it does add up over time.
Yep.
Alright, continue.
Go ahead.
Alrighty. Going back into the game. Notice the Zerg actually scouts the middle of the map just to check for... well, no, it looks like he's scouting cross map, but it does, of course, check for any kind of cheese in the middle of the map. You don't necessarily have to do that, but especially on the low levels of the ladder that are quite cheesy, it can be a good idea to always scout the middle. I know, again, when I play PvP, I always scout the middle. And there's the 11 pool. Terran doing some very standard stuff. Oh, maybe I'll just, since we're in a little bit of a lull, I'll point out the first depot placement, doing this like right next to the command center, you see like pros often will actually put it like right next to it. Basically, build it just somewhere that's really close to your mineral lines, and then shift click your SCV. Basically, waypoint the SCV, so as soon as it's done building the depot, it automatically returns to mining. And then if you built the depot close to the mineral lines, once again, you'll just get just a little bit more minerals. So another little hint for you Terran players.
Yeah, I always forget that.
Yep, and that's actually quite important because if you don't shift click back to the minerals, you can actually often end up with quite a few idle SCVs, which is not good. Especially once you get to the mid and late game and you're throwing down like a bunch of depots and barracks and stuff. You don't want too many idle workers.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to gripe on. First off, go ahead and pause, by the way.
Alright.
The first Overlord, I hate how he scouted with that. Because what he's doing is he's just looking for position, and that's it. Like, there's no real gain out of that. What I do on this map is, first I send it to the bridge, and then I send it counterclockwise. And that I send it to the sweet spot of the natural. I don't know if you know where that is, Sale. If you could box it like in the top left position.
Yep. Just right outside the cliff above the water, yeah?
Yep, except in the bottom right position. And the reason I do that is, one, I can see an 8 racks or a 14cc real quick, and because I'm sending it counterclockwise instead of clockwise, my second Overlord has safe passage to the top left. Because what I did for a while is I sent it top left originally, and my second Overlord would die way to the bottom right.
Yep. So notice
Natural.
how currently this Overlord isn't actually seeing anything useful whatsoever. I mean, at the most it'll see when the SCVs get transferred or something like that. But what you really want, as no one said, is you want it kind of sitting right here outside the bridge. So if it's here, it can't actually get sniped. This is actually a safe position. It can kind of just sneak along this water part where the Marines can't get it. But it will spot any kind of Marines running out towards your base. And just give you, like, 10 extra seconds to throw down a Sunken or build around the Zerglings, which is actually quite crucial when you're a Zerg player, because you want to be building drones as long as possible, and then as soon as you see them move out, you just make a bunch of units and defend yourself.
Yep. And a few more things I want to point out. The Overlord actually got pretty far into Terran's natural before he pulled it back, and that is really bad, because what a good Terran will do is just kill it. Then your build is 100 minerals slow, and that's a huge deal. So what you should do to deal with this is you should hotkey your Overlord however you want, and you should just spam that hotkey. Like, it's fun to do. Raise your APM, since you guys seem to care about that. But more importantly, you'll be aware of where it is, and you won't lose it, because losing that is a huge deal.
Indeed. One person says, talking about lag in the chat, is it mostly okay for you guys? By the way, I adjusted the settings once again. I'm playing around with these, kind of get a good balance between resolution and frame rate and minimal lag. Also, for some reason, my mouse cursor seems... Oh, no, it's better. It seems to shrink occasionally, which is quite strange. Don't know what's going on there. Anyway, shall I resume?
Yep. One last thing is, he didn't make an Overlord on 16. That's actually universal in all Zerg build orders except for ZVZ. Yeah, that's quite late. And what that does is your drones come out later, which means they get to mine less minerals, which slows you down even more.
Right.
Like that.
I think the basic idea is don't get supply blocked, as you see here.
Yeah. And what happened was he noticed his Overlord was in the Terran's natural, so he freaked out, and he forgot to build the Overlord.
Ah, I see. But it looks like a standard 3-hatch build coming from the Zerg. The reason he's building the lair at the natural is because there was a scouting SCV running around in his main. So he didn't want the Terran to see the exactly when he made his lair. Or even if he's making a lair, although the Terran should expect that. And I believe the SCV was killed before it got down here. but the Terran will assume that he's making a lair anyway.
Yeah, Terrans don't even seem to account for this these days, where you get speed before lair, and you do this, like, 12 Zergling attack. Like, I like doing that, but
It's
people
normal.
don't seem to.
It's normal to get a bunker, though, isn't it? So does that still work if there's a bunker there?
Yeah, you just run by it.
Ah, so BM, and it looks like the Zergling speed is just finishing while we're talking about this, but there are only 8 links.
Alright, another thing I want to gripe on. When those first Zerglings hatched, one did not immediately go to Terran's natural. And the danger of this is Terrans can just, like, make 6 Marines, bring, like, 6 SCVs and attack you. And it has, like, a retardedly high win rate, because Zergs don't see it coming.
And it looks like the Zerg made a second round of Lings, although 4 are still in his main base because that hatchery is poorly rallied. And it looks like the Terran's first push is coming. I don't know if he's going to try and only defend with Lings and not put down any Sunkens. His Spire is just about to finish. Now notice the Zerg saving up all of his larvae. Wants all 9 of those larvae to go into Mutalisks. Although I don't think he could quite afford 9 at that point. Yeah, it looks like 1 or 2 larvae were just a little bit behind.
Apparently there's a bug going on with Team Liquid.
Is there?
Hold on. I'm gonna pause for a second. I want to check up. What's up?
Wait, what? I'm on Team Liquid right now. Let me refresh.
Dude, fucking Gecko telling me wrong shit. God damn it. Never mind. Fuck him.
Alright.
Never mind.
So this is actually looking a little bit bad for the Zerg. So let me actually talk first. Actually, I was going to talk about the timing of when to save your eggs. I think it's when the Spire is 2/3 of the way done. So at 400 HP, you start not building anything. Is that correct?
300.
300. Okay, so halfway done.
Yep.
So notice Spire has 600 HP. When it's halfway done at 300, you stop building from all your hatcheries and just save up larvae. And when the Spire pops, you will have exactly 3 larvae per hatchery, and you can make 9 Mutalisks if you have enough money. Which the Zerg I think was a little bit short because they made a lot of Zerglings. Now I think what's happened here is the Zerg was kind of feeling a little bit safe because he made those Zerglings, so he didn't make a Sunken when he saw the push coming. Normally, I think as a Zerg you would have made more drones, and then as soon as you see that push coming, you can throw down like 2 more panic Sunkens and be safe against something like this. But anyway,
Yeah.
I will resume.
What I used to think about this was getting those Lings was an okay idea, because once you killed this off, you could go back and be counter-aggressive. But what I learned was, versus a good Terran, you won't just kill it, you'll trade. And trading is never good, because what happens is he's still making SCVs, and you can't. I mean, like, you can't make drones, you need to make Mutalisks.
Right.
So your economy falls behind.
Okay, and it looks like he's going to do some Mutamicro.
So what I do is I only make my initial 2 or 4 Zerglings, and I backstab with those, and those usually like tend to make Terran freak out for some reason. Because 4 Zerglings actually can kill quite a few Marines if they only pop out like 2 at a time.
Yep, and it looks like those mutas will clear up. And actually, because I know, or at least I hope there are some StarCraft 2 players watching this. So that, what you saw right there, where the mutas were going back and forth and just launching a volley at the Marines and then running back while stacked, that is one of the beautiful little micro, I suppose it's kind of a bug, but it's like a micro trick in Brood War that you don't actually see in ST2 anymore. Basically, if you group a bunch of air units with a unit that's really far away, they'll stay clumped as long as you're moving. It's called the magic box. So basically what he's doing is he's usually they're grouped with an overlord, like you have an overlord, say, starting you move an overlord, so from this position he might move it towards the bottom right. Just move it as far away from the Terran as possible, and then group it with your Mutalist group, and then while you're right clicking around in the Terran's base, they'll actually stay stacked and you can do some nice micro. And there's actually 2 ways to do the micro. Either you can press hold position, you right click towards something, and as soon as you're in range you press hold position and they'll launch a volley, and then you can immediately move back. I believe you can also You can also right-click individual units. Say there's a medic marine group and you want to specifically target the medics. It's also possible to just right-click a medic or attack and left-click a medic. So no one? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Again, I want to bring up the idea of keeping a unit outside Terran's front, because I think this Overlord will, by some miracle, see it leave. Yes, it will.
Yep.
But imagine if he went out along the right side of the bridge, and this Overlord over here was not there. He would have no idea it's coming, and he has no defense at his front. And that would be game. Shouldn't let that happen. Keep a Zergling there.
Indeed. Keep one unit.
I also want to point out that Zerg is making drones, which I think is a beautiful choice. I think he should have made a few Hydras to send to this bottom right, but other than that, I approve.
Yep.
As long as he can go with this Medic Marine group, which he should.
And of course, the Hydras will be sent here to morph into Lurkers. Basically, if you put 2 or 3 Lurkers on this ramp, they can stop infinite Medic Marine from running up. They just skewer them as they run up single file up the ramp. Which is really one of the big reasons you take, or Zerg's favor taking a main base like this, is because you can defend it so easily against the normal bioforce that Terran has.
Yes, and I just want to point out a mistake that a lot of Zergs make, is they'll get all these drones, and they won't take advantage of it. Like, you should absolutely throw down a 5th hatch around now. There's no reason not to. You made all those drones, do something with them.
And by the way, the Zerg is getting +1 air weapons.
Oh, what the? What's that doing there? Well, I don't agree with that at all. What is he doing?
I have no idea.
I think that's going to be completely useless, but okay. He also has not started Lurkers yet, which is a big deal. You need to start that immediately.
Where's the den? Oh, there it is. Ah, yes, the Lurker upgrade is missing.
Yep. Okay,
Alright,
good.
so resuming. So notice, now you might think this is just very silly that this Overlord was wandering out here, but actually if you notice it was moving up. That's because that Overlord was actually grouped with this Muta group. Notice how they become unclumped now? Because they lost their grouping thing, their grouping Overlord. So you actually have to be very careful about that when you're microing mutas. Have to make sure to cycle back Overlords once they get a little bit too far out and switch your group to another Overlord. Otherwise you can have silly things like that where all your Overlords die while the Terran's moving out of his base. But it looks like, see, luckily the Zerg spots it, so he is going to put down some Panic Sunkens. It's perfectly fine to do that. Normally, you know, the wisdom is don't build or avoid building static defenses, but in this case, you know, you kind of need it to not die, so that's fine. What? The Terran... looks like the Terran mis-hotkeyed. Basically what happened here is, Terran, in order to be able to stim, you have to have your Marines and Medics on different hotkeys. If you have Marines and Medics in the same hotkeys, you can't stim, unlike in SC2, where it does let you stim anyway. So it seems that he actually clicked all the units to the Sunkens here, and then changed his mind, but forgot to move his Medics to this 3rd base. So this is actually pretty bad for the Zerg. He should have had Lurkers out here in time to defend this. But it looks like
he killed Terran's main. What
yeah,
How
except
did that
somehow
happen?
the Terran gave up his main. So that's not a good
How
idea.
did 7 mutas shut down a Terran main? That doesn't make sense.
He only
What?
had 2 turrets, and I think he just transferred SCVs, so he didn't lose a lot, I think.
Was he not macroing? What? I don't get that. What's up, Terran? Alright, whatever. He killed Zerg's 3rd.
Yep, and of course getting a Radiate out. Once a Radiate comes out, that will be pretty much the end of the Muta harass. Obviously you can just irradiate one of the Mutas, and since they're all clumps, it does quite a bit. Oh, gotta be careful though. I believe you actually said this, or talked about this on one of the first episodes, where Muta harass, basically you just want free stuff. You don't want to ever risk your Mutalist group for no reason. Looks like Zerg's...
Yeah,
Yeah, with
2 you need to do damage.
Yeah. But it looks like Zerg is getting a little bit aggressive here. Not sure about this. The Marine group that cleared up the bottom right is going to go towards the main, but there's a lot of sunken, so it's not really going to do anything. I think Terran's actually in a pretty horrible position right now. He's got his main back, but lost quite a few SCVs.
Well, he can kill the third again.
Yep, but that should just be cancelled. Lurkers is still not upgrading. Did he just not get that?
No, he got it.
Oh, he did get it. Oh, of course, because there are Lurkers here. Wow, what am I talking about? Oh, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? Oh, this is actually quite clever. Oh, never mind. I was almost going to say he was going to wait for that hatchery to finish, but he didn't.
The lack of a fourth hatch in his main is really bothering me. There should be a fourth hatch there. I think that's very important.
Yeah, because if you look, the money is getting quite high. So it would help to have a macro hatch. He's going in, though, going for the kill. But the Lurkers are a little bit too far behind, so that's not going to work at all. Oh, well.
Zerg's really lucky that Terran just isn't good. That should have gotten destroyed. I think he stemmed a little bit late. Alright, this is what causes, like, false learning. This should not work. And because it did work this game, Zerg will think that he needs to do this from now on. And this will not work against, like, a good Terran. Pretty much ever, because there's just going to be infinite medic marine, and you're just going to lose all your shit. What he should be doing instead is clearing out this marine group down here and expanding, then getting defilers. You should never try to end ZVT games before defilers, unless you're doing a very specific sort of build that's tailored to do that.
So this game's going to go on for a little bit longer. Maybe I can speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, times 2 or 4.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, getting a couple of vessels there. Bit of a mistake. The vessel count is quite important in TVZ. Once you get up to like 10 vessels, it's pretty much impossible for the Zerg to deal with, actually.
Yeah, this Terran is not constantly making SCVs, which is really hurting his economy. By the way, Terrans, make the friggin' third command center in your main and float it over. Because, like, I don't know how many times Terrans have tried to expand to their third and the command center is like, it's at like 1200 light and 6 circlings to shut it down. Don't let that happen.
Yep, and of course, I just want to bring up that point again about constantly making SCVs. This is actually one of the questions that new players ask quite often, which is, you know, when do I stop making workers? And I think the best answer to that I've heard is, if you need to ask that question, you pretty much shouldn't ever stop making them.
By the way, the Zergs just lost the Defilers then to the drop.
Yep, I caught that.
Well, answer I would give is, for Terran and Protoss, 3 fully saturated bases is when you should stop.
Yeah, but see, I think the reason I liked that line was lower level players, even if you tell them 3 saturated bases, to them they'll still stop making them way too early. So and of course they won't be making them continuously. So basically, just make a ton of workers. Don't be afraid to have too many workers, because you probably won't. So just keep making them, and life will be good. You will have a booming economy and plenty of money to do other cool things.
Terran's still not taking a third.
Yep. Also, notice these 2 lurkers on the top of the ramp. This is what I was talking about earlier. This will defend against a ton of medic marine. It will be
that is shitty lurker positioning. I would just run up that ramp and kill them.
Yep. Okay, so then I'll say it should stop a large number of Medic Marine if they were
Yeah.
better positioned.
But
How
that's
should
something-
you position them?
You want them. Okay, pause. Let me talk about this.
Alright.
You want them back far enough so that they can only be hit by like the middle of the ramp, and they should be stacked with an overlord on top of them. which sounds extreme, but it helps so much because you'll have some crazy Terran player who will sack like 20 Marines to get 5 or 6 up, and if he target fires and kills one lurker cannot defend anything. So you want to keep both of them alive as long as possible, and putting the overlord on top means they can't target fire.
Yep. And of course it is possible to stack barred units, because, well, you just walk it over and you can stack them. Unlike normal ground units.
Yep.
So actually I think the top lurker is almost in good position, so if the other one was just stacked with that one, I think it would be fine.
It should be
Maybe 1 hex closer?
yeah, like 1 hex closer.
Yeah.
There was this hilarious game that Flash played on Grand Line against some not so good Zerg, and the Zerg positioned the lurkers bad, and Flash just like pushed up the ramp and killed them immediately. And that's not so good.
I remember I actually saw a really funny game where the Zerg put a drone on top of the lurkers, so like when the Terran when he tried to irradiate it, he clicked the drone.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, so that was quite funny. Anyway, let's resume.
People don't technically use their overlords enough, in my opinion.
Oh, it looks like the Zerg actually fixed his lurkers, kind of. He made it slightly better. But the Terran is just going to elevate her in.
Yay, Terran's taking a third. But he has no vessels.
And building it in his main, do note.
Yep.
As no one suggested.
Okay, this is really smart what the Terran is doing at the top right, just
Yep.
elevating his army in.
So it looks like this base will go down. Should get a scan. Yep, there it is. Target fire. Doing the micro. Doing the less
Wow.
than good micro. That should have gone in Terran's favor, guys. Yep. Just learn how to spread your Marines a little bit. And lurkers
Now, what
will
would
be
have
dealt
really
with.
been good is if he made 2 dropships and set 1 top left or top right and 1 bottom left, because that'll just like win you games straight up, and it's really annoying for a Zerg to deal with. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Dropship to bottom left.
Alright, but the cows are out. Actually, I'm just going to pause for a second. At the top right, notice that the micro the Terran was doing, basically what you want to do is, while the lurkers and lings are running at you, you stim and engage them, and as soon as you see the lurkers start to burrow, you immediately run away.
Yep.
So it's almost like how Protoss plays against Terran mech. You kind of attack them you want to attack them while they're unsieged, and as soon as they siege up, you run away. It's a similar idea, because lings by themselves don't do well against Medic Marine. They need the lurker support. And of course, lurkers completely destroy Medic Marine. So you kind of just want to do this attack and then run away kind of thing, which is hard for the Zerg to deal with, of course, because lurkers take a little bit of time to burrow. So,
If you want to be really fancy, you want to run back through the medics. That way they funnel the Zerglings. That's really fancy. Don't worry about that.
So it looks like the Ultras are going to clean this up.
I'm like depressed that Terran lost this. He had it.
Going for the Vulture Mines, that's the kind of a standard late game transition nowadays, I think.
Oh my god, get mines. Mines are so imbalanced. I hate Terrans do this. You should mine up the path to your third and the immediate counterattack point to the tank. Those are the 2 key areas you want to mine up. This third base is literally like 10 minutes late. Like, literally 10 minutes late.
Wow, that is a lot of Ultralisks. Of course, that is the solution to bad Zerg macro. Make an Ultra Den and press U a few times.
Yeah, but what happens is, if Terran was macroing properly, he would have the necessary medic brain to just crush this. Then Zerg has no economy, so he immediately loses, because he can only make, like, 2 more Ultras.
Indeed.
And to fight Ultras, you want to ball up your medic marine, so they only have a limited attack space, or the Ultras only have limited attack space, and just don't move, because if you move, you're not shooting, and you want to do damage.
Indeed, and usually once the Zerg has Ultras out, he doesn't have many Lurkers left over. So it's not like you have to worry about that, getting balled up and then having Lurkers skewer everything. Because of course Lurkers are quite gas heavy and Ultras are extremely gas heavy, so usually Zerg will not be able to afford both of those in the late game. Along with Defilers, of course, Defilers also being very gas heavy.
Oh my god, Terran only has +2 and 0. Wow. What? 23 minutes in and you only have... Oh my god.
Does he have 2 engineering base? He does now. Yeah, so it's another mistake.
Terran
Keep up your upgrades. Keep up your upgrades. Actually, if you watched the My Games Against No One in the impromptu episode we did last week, that was one thing that I messed up kind of in the last 2 games. I just forgot my upgrades. So, happens to the best of us. With me, of course, being the best of us. A couple more dropships. The game's looks like it's going to be over soon. And by that I mean I can see the replay bars, so I'm cheating a little bit.
Go ahead and like time did it.
Yeah. Alright, just gonna maximum the speed, finish up the game. Then we can see some other good games. Notice, by the way, look at those mines. Look at those mines. See, that's what no one was talking about earlier. Mines are so effective against Zerg because late game Zerg has pretty much no... Well, they don't have Hydras, which are kind of the mine clearing units.
Does Terran win this?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Looks like he does.
Holy crap, okay. Go Terran, alright. Wow, I thought for sure Zerg was screwed, or Terran was screwed. Alright, go Terran. Spend that money.
Yep. Actually, his money is quite low, but that's because he's mined out in both bases now.
And his third is not saturated, so...
Yeah. But he's in quite a good position. Notice these lings kind of suiciding into the mines. That's actually one good way to deal with minefields in the late game. Obviously, you don't want to run your ultras and lurkers and defilers through them, so just send like a few random lings out onto the map while you're not really doing anything, and just have them clear mines. Sacrifice themselves for the swarm. Alright, so let's go into another game. Now,
good.
We had some complaints about I guess episode 2 being like too Protoss focused or something, so I'm gonna try and get a bit of a race spread this time. So I'll pick a different matchup.
Alright, just the key mistake I think Zerg made was he was too aggressive to the Terran and he did not focus enough on expanding. I think he lost his third base 2 or 3 times, and that's not so good. And when it finally did come up, it was like 10 minutes late. So.
All right, so I have a PVZ on match point and a PVT on Python. Which one you guys want to do?
PVT.
Okay, you pick.
PVT. All right, let's go PVT. I got KasPra going PVT. I got BYFD in the chat wants a PVT. So let's do it.
And by the way, if you're Terran in that position and you took your third base, like, on time, which is to say, like, 10 minutes earlier, and you got your upgrades and stuff, that game would have been, like, a one-sided rape. So, work on that.
Well, I mean, both players made mistakes, so...
Yeah, I'm just saying, those are the two big things that could have very much so swung the game completely in his favor.
Alright, cool. So actually, Dan, with numbers, has a question. He says, but if he wasn't aggressive, Terran would just siege in front of his nat instead of defending. What's the alternative to that?
Swarm.
Yeah. Essentially, Dan, you want to delay him as much as possible with mutas and possibly lurkers, but he will get to your natural, and what you want to have happen is, as soon as he gets there, your defilers are out with swarm, and you can push him back with that.
Oh, actually, I think I misunderstood him. What he should have done is he should have left, like, 3 lurkers at Terran's front so he couldn't move out, and then have the other 4 positioned at 2 other bases so he can get those up. Because what happened was he kept all 7 at Terran's natural, and that group of Marines in the middle of the map was just killing stuff. I think that's what Dan is asking.
Alright, hopefully that's a satisfactory answer. By the way, shout out to Dan, because he made an awesome ISL hype video, which maybe I'll play it at the end of the show today. So that's quite cool. It's quite cool. Anyway,
I would also like to give a shout out to Folon for calendaring us.
Yes, Folon, and also for making a Liquipedia page for the ISL. So many thanks to Folon. It seems that our hero is the Terran once again, and his opponent is the Protoss pieces.
Wait, Super Guru was the Zerg, right?
That's what I was just thinking. Wasn't he the Zerg?
Yeah, he was the Zerg.
Okay, he was the Zerg last time.
Okay.
So he's the Terran this time. Okay, never mind. Whoopsie daisies. Interesting that the Protoss is deciding to scout cross map. Not 100% sure why he would do this. Personally, on Python, I would scout kind of as the Terran scouted towards this base, because that is kind of the closest ground positions you can get, kind of ramp to ramp. So I want to see, is he in a good position to do a fast push? That's what I'm scared of.
He's not scouting. He's trying to proxy something.
Ah,
But
I see.
I think he walled his probe in or something.
No, I think that's
No,
okay.
that's not tight.
Yeah,
That's not tight.
yeah, that's fine.
I remember one game in the replay pack where the Protoss actually walled himself in while proxying.
Dude, oh man, I did that in an SC2 game. I proxy 2 gated, and then like one of the gates, all the zealots from that gate were trapped. It was so bad. I felt like Kingdom. It's pretty elite. Anyway.
Oh, it's this game. By the way, I'm just gonna warn you guys, there will be some bad mannerism in the end.
Awesome.
Well,
Alright.
I know the users love that. So it looks like it's going to be hidden DT tech. And he does, notice he has 4 guys on gas. Now that I'm seeing the DT tech, I'm not going to say 100% that that's a mistake, because you in fact do mine gas slightly faster with 4 guys. Of course 3 is the optimum, because that's just, I mean, you get almost as much gas as 4, and it's just way more efficient. With 4 on gas, oh, it looks like he did pull one off, so that might have been a mistake. But there was actually a very interesting, someone did crunch the numbers on Team Liquid and made a thread about it, and it's something like over 5 minutes, you get like 50 more gas or something. So it's pretty, it's kind of insignificant in the long run, but if you're doing something super gas heavy like DT, like fast DTs, I can see, yeah, see, he put 4 again. So I'm inclined to say that that's on purpose. Oh, it's even going to be a DT drop.
I just want to point out that Terran should have noticed that the second pylon was missing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. But by the way, isn't it better to get the robotics facility at where you are proxying? Because then you wouldn't have to transfer the shuttle over.
I do not know. I am a Zerg player.
It's... I don't think it's a huge deal if you're going DTs. If you're going Reavers, then you do want to proxy it because then you can go back and pick up a second Reaver. But the DTs can just run to the Terran space. I don't think it's a huge
Well, if you're going Reavers, then you'll proxy Reavers anyway. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, like in this case, I don't think it matters too much. The one thing I will say, though, is that this timing is a little bit off. So if you're doing a build like this, learn the timing such that your DTs and shuttle pop out at the same time.
Never mind what I said. What I said was completely dumb, so never mind that. Just scrap all that.
So, yeah, similar to how we were talking about Mutalisk timing last game, like saving up your larva, for these kinds of builds, I don't DT drop, so I can't tell you exactly, but I believe starting the Robo, I think only slightly after the archives will allow the shuttle and DTs to pop out at the same time. But oh, it looks like the Terran lifted his wall and let the DT in. That's quite a mistake. Oh, actually, wait. I'm gonna pause this. I wanted to also talk earlier about when you mentioned the pylon count. That's actually quite an important thing because you know, a lot of new players like. Okay, so one of the hilarious things sometimes you see new players do is they like accuse their opponent of map hacking or something. They say, "Oh, how did you know I was doing that build?" And also, like when they watch pro games, a pro gamer might, you know, scout in a very weird location and just happen to see a proxy. They say, "Oh, he was lucky," or something like that. No. These things are not luck or hacking in most cases. An experienced player, just from like seeing, just like for example, the number of pylons in your base, can actually gather a lot of information that new players often don't even realize. For example, you go into the base, kind of, and run around as the Terran was doing. You see only one pylon for a long time, even though you know he has to have a second pylon, just, you know, because otherwise he'd be really supply blocked for a long time. Then you can expect, or at least predict, that he might be doing a proxy, as he was in this case. It doesn't mean that he absolutely is 100%. He could just be hiding his pylon in a corner of his base, but it's an indication that you should be careful. And I hear something. I hear myself.
Do you?
Is that... I don't know. I heard myself for a little bit.
Yeah, I hear it too. The echo or something.
Yeah. So, I think... No, it's better now. Now, I think things like this, you can't, like, just learn it, like, off a Wikipedia page. I think things like that just come from playing a lot of games and getting experience, kind of knowing what should be going down at what times, and things like that.
Or in Flash's case, you can hear the audience gasp.
Yeah, so if you're a new player and you're like, oh my god, you know, how am I supposed to learn every single build that the Protoss might do? No, don't like overly freak out about it. But basically, if you play like just a lot of games, you'll eventually be like, okay, I'm in his base now. I should see, like, he should be putting down a second pylon or a second gate or whatever, or he should be getting goon range. That's actually another huge indicator. If you're in the Protoss base and the core doesn't start spinning, like for a while, that's pretty huge because he's saving his gas for something. So you should be wary, be cautious.
What's really fun to do is, like, if you're in Terran's spot, you can be like, "Where's the proxy?" And sometimes the Protoss will just like leave immediately. That's always fun.
Indeed. So anyway, I'm going to resume this game, which has somehow entered a very strange situation. Putting a mine next to your mineral line is not a good idea. What? Okay. Yeah, if you're Terran and there's a DT in your mineral line, don't put a mine there and blow up all your SCVs. Just don't do that, please. Unless you're being casted, in which case absolutely do that, because that makes for some very entertaining casting. But yeah, otherwise don't do that. If you want to win, don't do that. And in comes the shuttle. And there's a Nexus going down in a very funny location. I can kind of explain this. Basically, it's like a hidden base, except it's like super hidden.
It's double hidden.
Yeah, it's like double hidden. So if you put it in the normal place here, it would be like hidden. Putting it behind is like ultra hidden. Like there's no way Terran's gonna scout that. And the interesting thing is you can actually mine from these minerals at only slightly slower than you would if it was in the normal position. Obviously you won't get the gas. But the thing is, I don't really agree with this move, because with this DT harass, he can actually just safely expand. Like he doesn't need to take a hidden base. He could have just
he's
made.
also expanding, so he's
Yeah,
double
it's
expanding.
kind of a double expanding, but I think he could have just put it at a normal third base, even. Because these DTs, not only do they do a lot of damage in the Terran base, but they prevent the Terran from pushing out until he's saved up a couple of scans. Or he does a really slow, like, turret leapfrogging push. Because otherwise, if he just tries to push towards your base, you just, like, attack him with DTs, like, in the middle of the map, and he scans once, you're like, okay, you lose a DT, and then the scan runs out and you send another DT, so, yeah, getting DTs actually gives you quite a bit of map control, and can make you quite safe against push for a while.
When you scan, the invisible ninjas don't actually get healed for like a second. So if you get scanned and immediately pick up, the DTs don't take any damage.
Indeed, as you're seeing there. But it looks like he's not paying attention. Ah! Losing the shuttle, that's quite a big mistake. Also, might lose these Dragoons to mines. I think the Protoss is getting a little bit over-eager here. Now, you see, I think my biggest problem with this is he's kind of doing two things at once. He's being ultra-aggressive and he's double expanding. If you're double expanding, you don't have enough units to really, be super aggressive like this. You should, because kind of what you're doing when you're double expanding is you're almost praying. You're saying, okay, I hope the Terran doesn't attack me and kill me until my economy kicks in. Because after you double expand, you will have a big advantage in the mid game. Once your 3 bases kick in, they'll be much faster than like a normal third base. So you'll have an economic advantage in the mid to late game. So there's no need to go all super aggressive like this. You can just defend yourself and then just sit on your your economic advantage. It's kind of like opposite game plans almost. Like, if you want to be aggressive, then don't double expand. If you're going to double expand, don't be, like, ridiculously aggressive. Poking a little bit at the front is fine, by the way. I'm not saying you should just sit in your main, like, and just sit there. But, you don't need to sacrifice Dragoons like that.
I just want to clarify something. Instead of, like, praying that he doesn't attack you, find ways to stall him.
Indeed.
Praying is not so good.
Indeed. Of course. But I think if you're double expanding so bravely like that, you are kind of hoping a little bit. I mean, a good Terran can just push you immediately. If they realize what's up.
Like, assume your Terran opponent is going to play bad. You should always assume that they're going to play correct.
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't like the idea of, like, oh, this guy is bad, I'm just going to double expand, he's not going to be able to do anything about it.
Indeed, and this Vulture might actually just see this base, which would be quite funny.
You should instead say, what is the Protoss race capable of doing, and base your build based on that.
Yep. So actually, that's a good point. Then let me actually talk about this, because I actually do like double expanding in PvT. So let me kind of explain the way I do it. So I go for 2 gateways. I go for 2 gateways Dragoons, and I pressure the Terran player. And I basically kind of make him turtle up. I don't do a 10-15 gate, I do a slightly more economic version. But I go for a very aggressive 2-gate Dragoon pressure. And then, while the Terran's like all freaking out and trying not to die to my Dragoons, I just put down 2 Nexuses. So the Terran, if he does a normal FD or Siege expand, my 2 gates will be able to make him kind of turtle up in his base and play very defensively. And I kind of use that to allow my 2 Nexuses, whatever, to get up.
So how do you deal with 4-back then?
It's close. It's close. Sometimes I actually have to cut quite a few rounds of probes and just like throw down gateways, so I'll actually have 3 bases with low saturation. But yeah, it's kind of iffy. It's an iffy build, I'm not gonna lie. it's a pretty
Well, the
iffy
way I
build.
see it is if you're double expanding, your observers are like ridiculously late, and you have this giant window where Terran can just attack and kill you if you don't find some way to delay it.
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm so aggressive in the beginning. I just want him to be super defensive and not do something like that. And of course, and usually I think my observers are in time to see like if he's going for a big push, and I just cut a few rounds of probes, and it's usually okay. But that's not okay. Losing those dragoons, getting pushed like this. Actually, another important part of it is delaying the Terran push as much as possible. So, kind of starting at his natural and microing and just kind of attacking a little bit and running back, attacking a little bit and running back. Because once the Terran gets to your natural, it's quite annoying to deal with.
I just want you guys to think about what would have happened if Protoss did not suicide those like 8 dragoons at the start.
Indeed,
He would have crushed this group. So yeah, don't suicide your dragoons. They're your friends.
This was kind of a good idea by the Protoss to use a small group of dragoons to pick off like tank reinforcements, but didn't quite have enough and just got picked off himself. So once you're in this position as Protoss, it's pretty tough to deal with. But however, I do want to say, if you're in this position, okay, let me actually just pause this. Do not freak out as a Protoss, okay? This is not an auto lose actually. You can still try and be as cost efficient as possible. So for example, if you see him planting mines around his tanks and not being careful about that, you know, sacrifice 2 zealots and blow up as many tanks as you can. You don't just like don't just like throw away your units like this and just like try and run up and break it immediately. Because you'd be surprised. You can actually break a contain like this if you're just with some good shuttle control and some good mine drags. If you watch a lot of like Oystein or Shawnee streams, you can actually see them doing this. It's really amazing watching them break a contain.
I think what's really important is just patience.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what this is doing is it's exploiting a timing of that third base, which you may or may not be aware of. And in order for that to kick in, you need time.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, the way you're taking advantage of that third base is by getting extra gateways, and you need time for those gateways to kick in.
Exactly.
The delay.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was trying to say, but said slightly better. Also, I paused this. I don't want the game to end quite yet, because some people are asking about how to break a push. There's actually, I think, Shawnee, or not Shawnee, Stylish. Was it Stylish? Somebody made a really good VOD on how to push, or sorry, how to like break a max Terran push. But essentially what you want to do is hit him, I think we talked about this earlier, how you, so the ideal situation is to hit him when he's unsieged. Obviously a good Terran will leapfrog his tanks forward, so he'll have at least some tanks sieged all the time. But for one thing, okay, let's actually analyze this game kind of from the beginning. For one thing, those dragoons that were sacrificed at the early game, imagine those were not sacrificed, not suicided, and he still had those. So let's say he still had an extra 6 dragoons from the beginning. And then I actually didn't quite see what happened in the beginning of the push. But let's say he started outside the Terran's natural with an extra 6 dragoons plus whatever forces he had when the push actually started.
I think he actually lost like 8 dragoons defending. I mean,
Yeah,
6 to 8 dragoons to mines in the mid game.
Yeah, he lost a few trying to save this third base as well, which is a mistake. Especially if you have observers out, you shouldn't be losing any dragoons to mines. One thing to remember is that observers are actually slightly slower than dragoons until they get the speed upgrade. So if you just like hotkey your dragoons and observer in one group and just like A-click, you will actually lose dragoons to mines because the observer is just going to fall behind and won't detect for you. So you need to control that slightly, I guess manually. Just make sure your observer is constantly with the dragoon force. That's just something to be aware of. But yeah, so what you want to do is kind of delay the push as much as possible by having your dragoon sitting outside the base. Make him siege as many times as possible on the way to your base. If the Terran just unsieges, walks to your base, sieges up, you're in a terrible position already, because he's just like right at your door. Like, he just immediately gets this nice position at your natural, which is quite difficult to break. I do agree. So first of all, delay it as much as possible, and then you want your observers. Observers are actually extremely key when dealing with a push, because you want to see exactly when he's sieging and unsieging. You want to see exactly where his mines are. You want to see where his vulture force is relative to the tanks. And because basically a Terran that's in a good position with siege tanks and mines and vultures shielding the tanks is next to impossible to kill head on until you get like arbiters and stuff and storm. So what you need to do is use your observers to see when he's not in the ideal position, and that's when you attack. So for example, half his tanks are unsieged trying to move forward. Because he's moving forward, his mines aren't in perfect position, his vultures are slightly out of position. That's when you have all your units kind of in a line. Actually, I'm just going to kind of indicate on the mini-map. So he's pushing towards your base. Your units should actually be in the middle of the map, kind of just spread out a little bit, just kind of waiting to pounce. You know, you're like the lion on the safari, like just crouching there, just waiting. And your observers are going to be spotting for you. So as soon as you see half his tanks on siege, he's slightly out of position, you A-move all your units in and kill as much as possible. But don't overcommit to that attack, though. Basically, as soon as his tanks all get sieged and you notice that like you've lost most of your zealots, immediately retreat. That's actually another key thing, is once you've lost all your zealots, you should run away. Because the zealots will tank the damage from the tank shots for you and let your dragoons do a lot of damage. But as soon as those are gone, dragoons just completely melt to tank fire. So you want to retreat and save those. Of course, those are also the more expensive units. So what you should actually be doing is attacking with a bunch of zealots and dragoons. The zealots all die, you run away with the dragoons, and then the only units you need to reproduce are the zealots. Which actually make also faster than dragoons. So you're constantly reinforcing the zealots, constantly attacking, losing the zealots, re-pumping the zealots, and attacking again. That's kind of how you deal with this push. It's kind of like a war of attrition. So that was kind of my long rant about how to deal with Terran pushes, which are quite annoying, I do admit. So, okay, I think that's about the end of this game. I believe the players said their GGs already. Oh, wow.
Oh,
alright.
Oh, boy.
So that's a little entertainment for you after my long, boring discussion on how to push break. So the Protoss is dead.
Oh, man.
Alright, so we kind of hit the hour. Let's just go for one more, though. Let's get the PVZ in, since someone asked a question about that, and I do want to be completely balanced to all the races. So no one can complain. We had one PVZ, one PVT, and one ZVT. Perfect balance. So Ustreamer Numbers asks, what can you do as a toss versus a Zerg which is turtling in fortified bases with lurkers and spore? Just take fortified bases yourself. Essentially, on even bases, Protoss has an advantage over Zerg. Like, if you're both on 5 base, the Protoss is winning. So if you see him turtling up like super hardcore, just go take a bunch of bases. I mean, because what he's doing by turtling up is saying, I can't attack you because I'm building static defenses. Like, Sunkens and Spores can't walk over to your base and attack you, unlike in StarCraft 2, where they can. But this is Brood War, so Sunkens and Spores stay where they are built. So yeah, basically just expand a bunch and get nice late game units like Reavers are pretty good. Reavers will actually break the contain. Like, when eventually in the late game, obviously you do have to break it. So just get Reavers. He attacks with a Defiler and your cannons melt. Once again, Reavers and of course High Templar will stop that. Storm, of course, and Scarabs do full damage under Swarm.
I think the key thing to dealing with that as Protoss is when you scout it, you should take your fourth very fast, the fourth is the key thing to get, because you're actually going to starve out much faster than the Zerg will. And the other important thing is to not let Zerg get a fifth base, because if you're playing on something like Fighting Spirit, he only, like, structurally gets 4 free bases, so you need to try really, really hard not to let him get that fifth. Because that equals, like, infinity Ultralisks.
Yeah. But, I mean, I personally think... I mean, you say the Protoss will starve out earlier, but
Yep.
I think because of how cost efficient like a late game Protoss army can be, I don't necessarily think that's true, because if you have like the composition with, you know, Archons, DTs, Reavers, and High Templar, all that good jazz, you can kill like so much supply worth of Zerg and just like not lose that much stuff.
Ultra Lang is like the definition of cost effective. Late game Protoss, until you get that death ball of like infinity Archons,
Yeah.
which you can't do until like super late game. It's actually not cost efficient, because Dragoons, Zealots, High Templar, it's actually not good against a Zerg army that's Ultra Lang. Versus High,
Yeah.
that's
I mean, that's
not cost effective.
But I mean, if they're turtling up to 4 or 5 bases, you can easily get like half a group of Archons and like 2 or 3 or 4 Reavers. So yeah, I guess that's true to an extent. It's just when in the
Again,
game.
4 bases, not 5. You don't want
Yeah.
them to get 5. 5's not good.
All right.
Don't double expand off the bat, because Zerg still has an army, just not as big as he would like. If you double expand, then your army is really small, so like you're kind of even, and he gets to move out into the middle of the map, and he's got a really fast fourth. So you don't want that so much.
Okay, and it looks like it's a Forge FE. This wall it's kind of okay. Eh. On this map, I personally actually like to wall myself in completely, and then just mine out this mineral to get out. But that's kind of a map-specific thing, so yeah.
I don't play this map enough to know the walls, unfortunately.
The way I do it is I put... Hold on, let me think. I haven't played Matchpoint in a while. I think I put... So in the... Uh-oh! Going for an attack, but 2
attack
cannons...
the cannon, run by. What are you doing, man?
Oh, man.
That
Wasted.
sucks. That sucks so much.
Yeah, should have just run straight past that. But for wall off on this map, I think I do like pylon slightly high, kind of to the right of the forge, forge to the left of that, and then gateway on the bottom left of the forge. So that becomes pretty much a tight wall off, I think, except between the pylon and the forge. And you can put 2 cannons behind that, and it's quite a nice wall in. So that's just how I do it, and I think you can kind of mirror it on the other side. So for example, pylon here, forge next to it, gateway here to make a tight wall, and then cannons behind, and then you can just mine this out when you need to. That's how I do it. Although of course, if you're not sure about wall offs, a very easy thing to do, just go find a pro VOD that's PVZ on the map that you want, and see how they do it.
Do yourself a favor and go watch Dork vs. Jaedong on this map.
Oh man, that game was ridiculous. Jaedong was sweating so hardcore at the end of that. He like ran a marathon. That was such a good game too.
So Zerg is doing the boring 3-hatch Spire into 5-hatch Hydra.
Yep.
Yuck.
Very standard. And of course no one says yuck because it's not 4-hatch, obviously. But generally Zergies will be doing this build. I'm gonna make a note about these pylons. I'd prefer it if they were in different locations. Not only does that give give you power to build buildings elsewhere, but it also provides a little more vision. So for example, either put this, one of these pylons like here, so you can build some gateways here, or put it like on the edge of your base to spot for drops and things like that. That's one thing that a lot of new Protosses like don't think about. They just like put all their pylons together. Your pylons can actually be like very useful for you to spot. Like if you put a ring of pylons on the edge of your base, you spot drops and stuff like that. Spot mutas coming in. So that's quite important. Also, if you have another pylon somewhere else, you can actually hide tech. So for example, if you know, you didn't want to show that Overlord your Stargate and you had a pylon here, you just put it right here, and he wouldn't see it.
Yeah, but what do you do versus like 2-hatch muta? Because you need to be really compact against 2-hatch muta.
2-hatch muta, you will have scouted it with your probe, so you can change your building placement. Or at the very least, you would have seen it. It's not a 3-hatch. Yeah, I think I've literally faced 2-hatch muta like twice, and once was against you, and it was just terrible. So I don't think I have a great response for that, but I'm pretty sure you'll see it fairly early with your probe. At least you'll see that he's not getting a third base, so you can mix it up. These Sunkens are, well, okay, let's put it this way. He can make the creeps if he wants to be super safe, but you don't need to actually morph it into a Sunken. At the very least, you can save those 50 minerals until you see him actually moving out. He's actually going to lose, oh, I think there's just one Overlord. But, yeah. Doing very standard. This is a funky cannon placement in the main. Actually, I think this is partly to do with a less than ideal Stargate placement. I think this cannon maybe should kind of be here in between the Nexus and the Stargate. Kind of the idea behind this is you want to protect the Stargate from getting, like, having Scourge camp it. But the problem with this cannon is it's not protecting your main mineral line, so if mutas came in, they could just go to town on your probes, and that's not good. So if you like put the Stargate a little bit closer to your Nexus, and you can have one cannon kind of covering everything, I think that's much better. But in this case, there are no mutas coming, so it's not going to play too big a role. Looks like the Protoss has pretty good probe saturation, so doing a good job with his worker production. That's quite good, quite important. Did the Zerg not make any Scourge?
No, I did.
Oh, there they are. Looks like only one hit.
I don't know why the Protoss made 3 Corsairs. I think it's a little bit illogical to me, based on what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. I think generally what I do to be safe is I just make 2. The first one is to scout, but if they are going for like the 3-hatch muta, the muta will kind of pop almost like very quickly after the first Corsair gets there, so you do need to have the second one making just in case. But after 2, you don't need to do it unless you're doing some kind of Corsair heavy build. So that's actually a pretty big mistake by the Protoss, throwing away his units like that.
Okay, 2 gigantic errors from both players. From the Protoss, he did not expand during that. That is key. You need to expand while doing that. From the Zerg, he did not make any units during that entire attack. And that is also huge. Another big error is Zerg does not have his 3rd geyser yet. Which is okay if he was going to take that mineral only real quick, but he's not.
Nope.
Oh my god, Protoss not taking a 3rd is huge. That's a gigantic blunder.
I hope he has Storm. There's a Storm. Very good. So yes, of course, expanding while attacking is the thing to do. Ooh. Decent Storm there. You could actually just move out with those Zealots now. There's no need to use these Storms up, actually. He's actually got quite a few Zealots. Let's see, Zerg going for the double upgrades. Oh, but not actually upgrading, though. Forgetting about that for a little bit. Once again, keep up with your upgrades. And now he's taking a third base, moving out to defend that. So that's pretty good, pretty nice.
Do you not have lurkers yet?
I was actually just gonna check if there was a robo up yet. So this actually is interesting because the robo timing is late by the Protoss, but there's no lurkers yet from the Zerg, even though there absolutely could be at this point. Is he even researching it? No. I don't know if it's finished. He's not making any.
I think that's actually like the key mistake. Zergs up until like C+ make. They don't get how important lurkers are. Like, people just think, I'm gonna make Hydras and make Hydras and make Hydras, I'm gonna be fine. But that just doesn't work. You need lurkers.
Yeah, lurkers are quite good in this
Lurkers
matchup.
are the key mid-game unit, not Hydras.
I remember you actually experimenting at one point with like only Hydras, weren't you? Or was I thinking of someone else?
Well that was just because I was bad.
Because I remember, man, I remember you talking about it, and then I like stormed you and just like completely destroyed you, and you're like, God, Hydra only sucks. I think I helped you out of that phase, man. I'm gonna take some credit for that.
If I had not met Kuryu, I would be like the worst ZVP player on the planet. Showed me the light.
Alright, nice. Now this is actually interesting, because these mutas, I think they want to snipe high Templars, but there's actually no Templars left. That's quite
I don't
amusing.
know why you made 3 Archons. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
this is unnecessary.
And on this map, you want the mineral only to allow you to expand the goo. The 2 gas spaces faster.
Yep. Of course, it also lets you. Losing some Templar. It also lets you get up a few extra gateways as well. Gives you a nice mineral boost, so that's nice. And the Zerg, of course, is taking his mineral only. So let's see. So when do you usually start going for Hive Tech in this matchup?
As soon as I get a 4th gas.
Okay.
As soon as I start making the hatchery at the 4th gas base.
Alright. Because actually, like, I quite enjoy playing ZVP, but I always just like randomly get it because I have no idea when Hive is good. Because Hydra Lurk is quite effective for a long time.
Well, the problem I was having is, first off, let me explain that Hydra Lurk is not a late game unit composition. It just does not work once Protoss gets a big army. You need to eventually start moving towards Hive Tech units. And the problem I was having was I was staying on Hydra Lurk for too long, and I was dying once it got to a certain point. And then Game told me I should get the Queen's Nest once I put down the hatchery of my 4th gas.
Nice. It looks like Protoss is setting up his 4th base. I would like it if the Zerg had some more spotting around the map. Like, there is a Zergling at the 6 o'clock base, but if he had maybe like at least an Overlord at the 12 and an Overlord at the top left as well, just to see when those bases are going down.
He has 0 map knowledge right now.
Yeah.
He has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, if you just look at the mini-map, like, the amount of stuff that Zerg sees is just like his bases and then his army. Zerg players really should take advantage of having of Overlords being able to move. Just put them in strategic locations. Like, for example, like in the Zerg main base, have a couple of Overlords to the left of your main to spot for, you know, DT or HT drops.
And it really is, like, key. When I'm playing a Sair heavy player, I actually get Burrow and put Zerglings around the map.
Yeah.
Just because it's so useful.
Yep. Yep, so do that, Zerg players, do that, Zerg players.
I usually get a lull from the Protoss player when he sees I have a Burrow Zergling at his 3rd base.
Now, by the way, guys, we've seen this a couple of times. I get this building exit is blocked on my screen. Let me explain what's going on here. If you look at this gateway placement, these middle 2 gateways cannot build Dragoons. If you build a Dragoon from these gateways, it will not spawn. It will just say building exit is blocked and like refund your money. Because they actually can't get out. So if you do a fancy placement like this, just remember, like, if you have inside gateways, you can only make Zealots and Templar from them. Do not make Dragoons. Just a little tidbit. Also, be careful when making an Archon, and like, if like 2 Templars pop out from these gateways and you make an Archon, sometimes it can get trapped in a random location once it spawns. Usually it forces itself out, but just be very careful. You don't want random units getting stuck. It's quite embarrassing and frustrating when that happens.
Alright, one thing that's annoying me a little bit is neither player is taking advantage of having a mineral-only expansion. As Protoss, you take advantage of that by quickly taking the 12 o'clock base or the 6 o'clock base, but he's not doing that. And as the Zerg, you do the same, except you add on like 6 more hatcheries than you normally would and pump a ridiculous amount of Zerglings.
Someone asked about what I said about refunding the money. I actually didn't know this until recently. I was talking about this, and I actually thought it just took away your money and just like took away your unit as well. But apparently, you do get the money back if it doesn't pop out of the gateway. So it's not a complete loss, at least.
I always thought it just stayed queued and didn't come out.
No, you get the building exit as blocked. It stays queued in SC2, but not in Brood War. Also, I'm noticing that the High Templars don't have their energy upgrade. At this late in the game, they absolutely should have it. That's actually... by the way, so if you don't know the energy upgrade, obviously it gives you plus 50 total. That actually means that a full energy High Templar has 3 storms instead of 2. Which can, in my experience, makes the biggest difference when you're trying to defend an expansion and you have like a bunch of cannons and 1 High Templar there. Having the 3 storms rather than 2 makes a huge difference. And also they do
also start with more.
Yeah, they start normally they start with 50 energy. If you have the upgrade, they start with 62.5. So it's a little bonus there as well. So right now they're on. What is Protoss doing? Oh man, a bit of a miscontrol there. Gotta be careful with that. Now the thing is,
let me explain how to deal with lurkers as Protoss, because
go for it.
They just don't get it. What you should do is you should have Dragoons attacking the lurkers, and you should have High Templar behind the Dragoons. Zealots are not attacking; they're behind doing their own thing. Don't attack with Zealots when there are lurkers. Then when the Hydra Leng comes to attack your Dragoons, you storm them. And then once the lurkers are mostly gone, then you send in all the Zealots. And because he wasted his Hydra Leng, you just run him over.
Yeah.
And it's really effective.
I mean, although the thing is, it's easy to say that, but it actually is quite difficult to do that effectively. I do understand that. Another thing to note is 1 storm does not kill a lurker, but 1 storm will take away enough damage that a Dragoon shot or a Zealot hit will kill a lurker. So basically, 1 storm will reduce the lurker to 1 hit, to a 1-hit kill. So another thing you can do is just like storm it and then run a Zealot or a Dragoon in and just snipe it.
In my opinion, it is never worth it to storm just a lurker. If you're going to storm a lurker that has units on top of it, go for it. But as a Zerg player, when I see Protoss wasting storm on a single lurker, I get happy. Because storms are what allow you to deal with the Hydra Leng.
Yeah. And it looks like the Zerg is only sending back a couple of units, even though the whole Protoss army is here. I mean, so the Zerg at this point, his army is completely passive in the middle of the map. What he should be doing is either he needs to unburrow all these lurkers and send everything back to crush this, or if he wants, he can just sack this base and go for a big counterattack, although I don't think that would be... Well... I'm not really sure. Which one would you do in this situation?
I wouldn't let this happen.
Yeah.
I think still, what's really bothering me is Protoss is not expanding everywhere, and he absolutely should be.
Yeah, well he's expanding to the 6 o'clock now, so...
Well, what about 12? That should absolutely be taken.
Yeah. He does have quite a bit of money. But I don't understand. See, Zerg is leaving like all his army here as if that's doing something. He's managed to clean up most of the Protoss force, but if he, like, imagine if he brought back all of these units from the beginning, he would have completely crushed his Protoss force, especially if he flanked it from the back. So I'm kind of questioning this play by the Zerg. But meanwhile, Protoss is getting more bases in the Zerg, so Zerg is in a pretty terrible position.
Yeah, obviously the Zerg is dead, but
Yeah.
although Protoss has like a ridiculous amount of money, he's not really spending it.
Yep. Actually, massing the Archon's interesting.
And I am absolutely a fan as Protoss of getting like 3 robos and bringing like 6 shuttles in each battle. Or 6 Reavers.
6
in each
Reavers.
battle.
Yep, 6 shuttles would be peculiar. 6 Reavers, much more reasonable. And that's kind of what I was talking about. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier too. How I don't think there's really a cost-efficient way for Zerg to deal with Reavers. I mean, obviously you can say mutas, but you know Protoss is gonna have backup. So once you get to this late game and Protoss gets like 6 Reavers, as Nolan was saying, it is just crazy how much stuff you can kill.
Yeah, at this point where you have like mass Archon and Reaver, then yeah, you're totally cost efficient. But when you're still mostly Zealot, Dragoon, High Templar,
right, so it's kind of that transition phase that's difficult. That's actually
it's
true,
not-
yeah. That's like always when I die, like I'm trying to get to the late game comp, and I'm just like, and then they just make the switch, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not quite there yet, and then I die, and it's just so sad. Just so tragic.
Yeah, I just think a huge error that I think Protoss players are the main culprit of is not expanding as much as they should and quickly enough.
Indeed. And then, I guess conversely, if you're a Zerg player, you want to deny Protoss expansions as much as you can. So, you know, running 6 speedlings to their expansion location and just shutting it down is extremely effective. So I'm just going to ×2 this. This game is pretty much over. I think the Protoss has an overwhelming advantage.
And by the way, this is the point where you go scouts.
Well, he does have a fleet of like 5 observers. I'm digging it.
Yeah, you go scouts and write funny messages in the middle of the map with pylons.
Indeed. Oh man, that DT is doing crazy damage to those ultras. Looks like he's gonna run around. And he's still got the lurkers here, doing absolutely nothing.
Oh, another thing I just want to point out is when it gets to these like mega late game situations. Well, this isn't really mega late game, but eventually you want to start tacking back towards Hydra Lurk and not going Ultra so much anymore, especially on these maps where you only get like a limited number of expansions as opposed to Fighting Spirit where you're guaranteed like at least 5 gas bases. Because what happens is Protoss starts getting gas starved, as we can see here, and therefore has to go quite Zealot heavy. And Lurkers just eat Zealots for breakfast, so do that. It gets to the point where Ultras are no longer cost efficient. Hi, Sale.
Yeah, sorry, I just gotta ban some guy who's like advertising some random website. Alright, so I think that'll be all for today.
You want to do a Q&A?
Yes. Let us do a Q&A session. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask our resident superhero, no one. But that is going to be all for the games for today.
I can't actually read the chat for some reason, so if you want to pick some out for me.
Yep, I will read. No questions yet? No questions yet. Although there's a bit of a delay. So if anybody has questions, well, someone has a complaint about the stream. I don't know why it was interrupted for you. I don't know why. Next week's topic. Actually, actually maybe I'll make an announcement right now. Next week I will be unavailable to do the show. So I think we're gonna have to discuss exactly what will happen. But just stay tuned. I'll put an update in the thread. I'll do another update thingy. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not gonna happen. It might happen, but we will see. You say cut again, but last week it wasn't actually cut. All right. Alright, last week we actually did it despite me being almost dead. And I actually have forgot to upload that, so I'll upload that along with today's
episode. No, man, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, man.
Oh, okay, there was a question. In TVZ, when do you get your academy in relation to your refinery?
Oh boy. I don't know, but you can test it for yourself just by getting your gas, and if your academy finishes right when you have, I think it's 200 gas you want, then you're doing it right. Because you want stim, you want 2 medics, and you want at least 1 comset, so 250 gas.
Alright, 250 gas. I have people talking about Shark and Canada. Oh, Canada.
We had a lot of questions last time, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. We have a question. How do you practice a build order against a computer or 1v1 people? Personally, I don't really know build orders to the exact number. Like on Liquipedia, I think Liquipedia is a little bit misleading on this because it lists builds up to like 80 food or something ridiculous, which is kind of crazy. Like in actual games, you can kind of know it up to like 20, 25, maybe 30 food. But after that, just know like the rough order of buildings and things like that. So for example, let's say in PVT, as I talked about before, I like to go for 2-gate dragoons and then double expand and then add all my gateways in order to defend a push. So the only specific numbers that I actually know are 8 pylon, 10 gateway. You can actually get away with 11 gas or 12. It's kind of like 11 or 12 gas, and then 13 or 14 core, and then pylon. Pylon actually doesn't even need a number. Pylon whenever I can. The second pylon is just like when I can afford it, And then after that, I don't have specific builds. So then after that, it's just I get goon range when I can afford it. I get my first dragoon when I can afford it. And then after my first dragoon, I put out my second gateway, and then I get 2 more dragoons, and then I get 1 dragoon while the second gateway is building, and then I end up with 4 ranged dragoons pressuring the Terran, and then I can decide what to do from there. So basically, you see, it's kind of just more like, I'm building things when I can afford it and when other things finish. It's not a specific food thing. So it's not like you have to memorize all these numbers. And I don't like practicing, against a computer too much. I just find it boring. You just practice it in 1v1. It's a lot more fun, and you can learn just as much. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that.
Well, when I was learning my Zergy build orders, I always did it against a player, but I think it's preference.
Yeah. So the famous example is Noni, Noni playing against computers to Nooney playing against computers. That's why I hesitated, man. Nooney playing against computers to perfect his build orders, which is absolutely fine. Nooney is an amazing player, and he actually has his builds down like super crisp. Like, he knows exact timings and stuff just from massing the games against a computer. And if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I personally don't find that very fun, so I don't do it.
Alright, any more questions? Oh, actually, you know what? I think I could open the chat now.
Alright,
Okay, True Fool asks, when does Protoss get second gas usually in PvZ? Well, it depends what you're doing. If you're going for a gas-heavy build, such as Sarah DT or Sarah Reaver, you want it earlier. But if you're doing something like, one of my practice partners does this, he delays his second gas quite a bit, and he squeezes out a second gateway. And he has this timing work where he gets a Stargate and a Corsair, and he gets like 16 Zealots. And he just like kills my third. And that's actually the reason why I stopped doing 3-hatch Spire into 5-hatch Hydra.
interesting.
Because no matter what I did, he just destroyed me.
I think I can give a slightly more specific answer. I've been playing around a little bit with the timing, but I think if you're doing, you know, the very normal Stargate and Citadel, and then, you know, second gateway and then archives, about 28 to 30 food, maybe 27 to 30 food, roughly in that area is where you can get it. I've been playing around a little bit with the timing, but I think that feels comfortable to me. Yeah. So I'd say about 28, 29, maybe 30 food. Let's see what else. Alright, any more questions? Last minute questions? Or else I'll stop the recording. And then we can wrap up the episode. How do you do the integral? Well, what is this? Alright, it's going to be product rule on, what, x squared and then log of x squared. So it's going to be... I'm going to do this, guys! Fuck you, I can do math! It's going to be 2x log of x squared plus x, or 2x squared log of x 1 over x? That's... Oh, wait, shit, you said integral. I think I just did the derivative. Fuck! Whatever. Alright, gonna wrap it up. Oh, wait! No, Truthful's got more questions. Shit! I was doing math. Alright. Truthful says, what is the best way to beat a fast lurker contain?
Well, define fast. Are you talking
That's
2-hatch or
Protoss.
3-hatch? If it's 2-hatch, you just laugh at him because he's bad, but if it's 3-hatch, first of all, it's really important that you break out soon, because the longer it goes on, the more he gets the power. But you don't want to break it so fast that you don't have, like, units. Like, you don't want to just go 12 Dragoons in the Observer and you bust it, then all your Dragoons die to Zealots. So, what I would say is, you want to start off with your normal... Well, what I do is, I get 6 Templar before I start Zealot production. Or, not Zealot production. Like, the main army production, that way the Templars get more energy when I eventually move out. Then I make a few Zealots just so no Zerglings do any funny business, and then I start Dragoon production. And then you want to bust out doing the way I said earlier, which is Dragoons on the Lurkers, Hydroling that comes in, you storm it, and then once all the Lurkers are gone, you run in with Zealots.
Kind of unrelated, but someone asked about colors being messed up every time you start Brood War. That's kind of like a Windows 7 / Vista issue. If you play in Windows mode, that never happens. I don't know a proper solution. I'm pretty sure you can search on Team Liquid for a proper solution to that. What is the best timing for unscouted 5 pool for Forge? I don't understand that question. Are you talking about when to put the Forge down?
11. Always 11.
Yeah, the Forge timing is the same no matter what.
Never 10 forge. Do not 10 forge. Do 11 forge. If you're doing 10 forge, you're going to put your forge down before you see what the other guy is doing. And if he 12 hatches, then you just made a forge for nothing. So don't do that.
Yeah. Basically, like let's say you're playing on Fighting Spirit. Don't put your forge down until your scouting probe gets into the base that you're scouting first. So like you can see if he's put a pool down or a hatch down, and if he's not there, then you put the forge down, and usually that's 11, or that will be 11.
Yep.
So,
It's 11.
Yeah, so that will be 11, and then you can scout or double scout the last two bases. So it's always going to be 11 forge, at least on Fighting Spirit.
Right. If you're playing Fighting Spirit, you can't always scout his base anyway.
Yeah.
Right. But if you put forge down 11, you're fine versus it anyway. You should practice. Just practice it. It can work. Absolutely,
Yeah.
it can. Even if you scout him last. NRG Dragon, who played in the ISL last Saturday, I don't know how he does it, but he always single probe scouts, and even if he scouts me last, he somehow holds it with an 11 forge. So
08353, even if you go 10 forge, I'm pretty sure you're sacking the Expo anyway.
you can hold it either way, even with an 11 forge.
Holding the Expo, really?
Yeah, you can do it.
You don't just
need
put a
to
cannon.
practice
You
it.
don't just sack it and put a cannon down in your main.
You can, but you can also save the expansion.
Huh.
It depends on the map. If you're playing on, you definitely can. If you're playing on something like Great Barrier Reef, where the rush distance is like 5 seconds slower than Fighting Spirit, then yeah, you have to sack the natural. But on Fighting Spirit, you can. You absolutely can.
Well, but the thing is, even if you sack it, that's fine. Just put a cannon down in your minerals, and then just build some gateways, and you're fine. You seem to be implying that sacking the Expo it puts you behind. It doesn't. He went for a 5 pool, so he has like no drones, and you're gonna have plenty of probes. So just be like, oh, like that's my reaction. I actually didn't know you could hold it. When I see a 5 pool, I was like, oh, okay. I just put a pylon down in my next to my nexus, and I built a cannon in my mineral line, and then I'm absolutely fine. And I just built some
If you're
gateways.
spawning at the top left or bottom right position, you may not want to try it, because that's a little bit more tricky, just because you can't do the imbalanced wall-in, but top right and bottom left, you should have no trouble with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And being the avid 5-pooler or 4-pooler that I am, I have tested